Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is our first assignment. And I say assignment slash project, okay? As you know, this class is all about design projects. So we're gonna have 4 major projects in here, about 2 weeks each, and this is going to be our first one. Our first one, I like to think, is a re-warm up to Creo. So it's going to give us the opportunity to kind of refresh ourselves on how to navigate through things, but we're also going to build on what we learned before, and we're going to do some simulations or some automations, if you would, of the assembly that we're going to be putting together. So if we go to our learning plan in module 1, you're going to notice that number 4 here says we're going to complete the crankshaft assembly tutorial. Okay, so I have the PDF for you to reference, as you need to. I also have it underneath the camera here. So this is the duplication. This is the in-person, if you would, version of that PDF. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating this crankshaft assembly here. So we've got a piston that's going to be going back and forth in a bore. We've got a connecting rod, and then we have a camshaft that this is going to be going around. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building this outer portion. We're going to be putting this together, and then we're going to be animating this so that you can see the motion going back and forth. Okay, so it's a nice kind of simple assembly to put together on that modeling and assembly side of things. So it's a great way to kind of remember again how to use Creo, because it might have been a little while for some of you, but we're going to be adding on and doing then the animation of showing it, going back and forth. So first things first, though, we have to create the models, the detailed drawings, and the assembly for what we have here. So as we look at as we look at this handout, this kind of talks to you about some advanced assembly concepts. And I'm not going to really get into that at this point, because I will be demonstrating some of these things probably either the next time we're together or next week, one of the two. We'll kind of see where timing is. But as we kind of go in here and we start looking, and you're welcome to do the reading, but starting on page 13.7 is where we see the individual parts for this assembly. And first things first, we have to create these models. Okay, so the task that you're going to have starting today is going to be starting on page 13.7. You are going to be creating each one of these parts. The first part that we have here is the end cap. Okay, now you're going to notice that even in the PDF, I have a part number next to this. The part number is 210. This is the part number, the file that you're going to actually call it. Do not name it or file it away or save it as end cap. Save it as 210, because when you pull up your borders, it's going to automatically populate the part number, which is the file number, in the right spot in your title block. Okay, if you file this away and you save it as end cap, then where the part number is in the drawing border is going to say end cap and not the part number. Okay, so I've given part numbers to each one of these. So make sure that you save the part number for the end cap as 210. And then as we go, there's going to be 5 parts, individual parts that we do. Our next one is going to be our connecting rod, which is this. This is going to be 220. Okay, and then we've got 200 and then 30. And that's going to be our base block, which everything is going to be mounted inside of. And then we're going to have 240, which is our crankshaft, and then 250, which is our piston. Okay, that's the last part. So 5 individual parts. The assembly itself is going to be 20100 or 2100 is going to be the overarching assembly drawing number. So that's going to be the assembly number that we call it out as. Okay, so again, your files are going to be by the part number, so that when we pull it up in our border, it's going to populate in the right place in the title block. Okay. Now, the other thing that I want you to pay attention to as you're going through here is the way that the planes are for each one of the parts. So for instance, I want you to pay close attention to, on this end cap, notice that the top plane is here, your front plane, right, I'm sorry, your front plane is right here. Your top plane is going to be going through right here, and then your right plane is coming in from the bottom. Okay, try to line those up when you're creating those. If you don't, it's not the end of the world, but it makes it easier later when we're doing the assembly the way that they have it in the tutorial. Okay, just so that you know. So same thing for the connecting rod. Okay, as we turn the page here, the front plane is what we're going to be doing our drawing on. Our top plane is right here, and then the right plane is going down here. So essentially, if you model it, it's actually sitting like this. Okay, because that's where the origin is, right in here. All right. Same thing for the base block. Kind of gives you the perspective of the planes. If you have questions about that, let me know. And then crankshaft. Notice that we have the front plane is right in the middle here, and then it's evenly distributed on either side. And then the planes are going down the middle. And then lastly, for our piston, we have those there as well. And it gives you some hints and dimensions accordingly. So what I wanted to do is to start by doing a demonstration of our end cap. This is a pretty simple part. And then I'm going to kind of let you guys go a little bit because, again, part of what we're doing in this class is getting you prepared for how things are going to be out in industry. A lot of times you're going to be given a set of like sketches or some drawings that we want you to convert. And now you've got to get these into their final form. First things first is going to be the models. Okay. Now I want to go back, and we will be looking at the end cap, but I want to show you what you're going to be handing in as far as this assignment. So part models are first, and that's what we're going to be talking about here today. The second thing that you're going to do is once we have the part models, we're going to put the assembly together. So this is going to be the assembly model. Then the next part of this assignment is going to be the detailed drawings for each one of the individual parts. So we're going to have 5 models on the top. That's going to be 5 details then here for the detailed drawings. Then we're going to have an assembly drawing that corresponds to the assembly model. Those two go together. And then lastly, we're going to have the animations that we're going to be creating at the end. Okay. But first things first, we have to do the part model. So you've done these first 4 things in your fundamentals class. Okay. And that's why I think this is a great project. The parts they're not super simple, but they're kind of like medium parts to work with. There's some geometry there. All right. But they're not super complex. They're all things that you would have done before. And this is a great opportunity then once you get the models made to now make the detailed drawings. And remember, how do I put a border in? And I'll demonstrate that for you. Don't worry. How do I do my dimensioning? I'll talk about some of the nuances. And it gives you that chance to kind of reacclimate to the software before we start getting into some really advanced stuff. Okay. And then lastly, kind of rounding this one out with animations. Now, just a reminder, we're spending 2 weeks on this project. So it's not like we're going to, blow through this really quickly, but we are going to be working on it each time we're together for the next 2 weeks with, then the due date being at the end of the next week for each one of these elements. Okay. So let's take a peek at the part models. So like I said, let's start out by looking at the end cap. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create this end cap. The dimensions are here in this perspective view, but this is giving us kind of, how we're going to be orienting the part in the actual part in Creo. So I'm going to go into Creo, and first things first, you want to make sure that you have your working directory selected. So don't go, remember, and this is going to be something that you're going to have to just kind of, reacclimate yourself to, is don't just start new and open. Even if you're opening something out of your working directory, you have to first set that working directory before you open up out of it. It's going to let you, but then you're going to have problems saving later on. It's just kind of the weird thing about Creo. So set your working directory, make sure it's where you want it to be, and then you're going to hit OK. I selected it. Why is it not? Okay, I think we're okay. Then you're going to go into new. And if you remember, it's going to pull up this menu, and we need to select what we want to do. We're going to be creating a part file. And remember, our file name is not going to be the name of the part. Our file name is going to be the part number. So we're going to, for this one, for the end cap, it's 20010. And in the common name, you could put end cap. Okay. And go ahead and use the default template. And you can hit OK. Yeah, oh yeah, it's going to tell me it's already there. So I'm going to hit close. I have to do an _1. Don't do an _1 for yours. Just put in the 20010. And now we're going to be in that familiar place kind of coming in here. Now at the top, we want to make sure that we're on the ribbon that says model. Okay. And then these are going to be kind of our familiar commands. In the middle-ish here, we are going to do an extrude. Okay. So we're going to go in under the extrude, and the extrude is going to ask us, what plane do you want to be on? We want to be on the front plane. So over here, we just want to highlight, and it's going to be this one right here. Make sure it highlights and it says front. Okay. Once it does, you can left click. And now this was that configuration that we did that now is orienting the sketch plane to, you know, where we're looking at. This is that, whatever it was, display to 2D or something like sketcher to 2D. All right. And at the middle here, this is going to be our origin. This rectangle on the outside is our front plane. So now when we look, what we're going to be creating is I'm going to start with a circle. This is another nice update that you're going to notice. We're going to go on the origin. Remember, in order for this to know in space where we're at, we always have to tie to the origin. So try to look at your part where there's a natural origin, and that's going to be the center of our planes here as we look. And I'm just going to do a simple circle. Once we get done with that, you can click on your middle roller mouse button, and that's going to end that circle. So it's going to kind of like be getting used to the mouse again. It's a little bit different. Now, remember how Creo used to like use these big numbers, always was like, you know, like right now it says my diameter is 190 units big. Okay. And if you would double click on that and you would change it. So in our case, this needs to be a diameter of, it's a radius of 0.5. So it's a diameter of 1, enter. It would make that circle super small. Do you guys remember that? Or you'd have to zoom way in. Look at what it does. It doesn't do it anymore. It automatically scales the drawing now. That is something that matches what SolidWorks does, which is really nice. And that's an update in this version, which is cool. So now we have that circle there. I'm going to do my next circle, share the same center, a little bit wider, middle mouse button to end that one. And this one's going to be 1.5 diameter because it's a radius of 0.75. Now, in order to make the flat here, I'm going to do a line. That line is right up here in the sketch mode. I'm going to left click when it like snaps to the intersection here and across here. And then I'm going to hit escape. The nice thing about Creo is that I'm still in my line command. It didn't exit out. So I hit escape once, and now I can continue with another line over here and here. And I can hit escape, and I have to hit escape one more time to end that command. Now that I have these lines here, because I only want half of the circle, okay, or the arch there, now I'm going to go up. If you remember in the editing area, this is going to be delete segment. I'm going to click on that, and how delete segment works is I am going to left click and drag across the portions of the lines that I don't want. And then I'm going to release when they're all selected. Do you guys remember that? Okay. It is really nice. It is really nice. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to left click or hit escape to get out of that command. Otherwise it stays in there. Okay. And now, I don't know, I'm kind of anal this way. I like my dimensions to kind of be off the part so that I can see them. Additionally, right now, these are diameter dimensions. If I would use this for my drawing and I would export it, or I would start the drawing from this model, it would dimension those as diameters. Since they're not full circles, and you'll notice that on our model here, they need to be radiuses. So I'm going to left click on that dimension, and right here, this dialog box is going to come up, and I can change this now to a radius. So it toggles between radius and diameter. Same thing for the 1.5. I'm going to left click on it, and I'm going to toggle to that radius. And now this way, when I do my drawing, it's going to go to the radius right away. I don't have to mess around with that and change it. You can at the dimension level, but it's nice to do it here so you don't have to worry about it later. So those are the first two radiuses. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to check if I am fully defined. Creo does this differently than SolidWorks. SolidWorks will have it fully defined at the bottom, and it'll have everything black. But what we need to do, if you remember, we got to go to feature requirements up here next to the okay. And as long as we've got all green check marks, that means that we're good to finish up this command and go to the extrude. So I'm going to hit close. I have green check marks and I'm going to hit okay. Now I want to look at how this is going to distribute. So remember, I sketched on my front plane and we're in the extrude command. So it's like creating thickness here. If we look at our page 13.7 underneath here, you're going to notice that we want this plane to go through the middle of the part. So instead of extruding all on one side, we are actually going to do what they call in Creo a symmetric extrude. So we're going to down underneath depth here for how thick we want it to be. We're not going to go to a blind depth. We're going to arrow down and we want to click on symmetric. Now what that does is it's going to evenly distribute whatever our dimension ends up being on equally on either side of that plane rather than on one side of the plane. You guys remember that? Okay. So now you can kind of see that happening. And I want this distance to be 0.375 thick. Enter. And then that's going to be the thickness that I'm at. Okay. And if it looks good, you're going to hit okay. And now that's my first feature. Now, something I want you to do, which is very good practice. We were doing this in GD&T when we were looking at SolidWorks. I want you to rename this from extrude 1 to something that means something. Now, for this one, I'm going to call this profile. And if you use more than one word here, again, Creo needs you to do like an underline instead of a space. It won't accept spaces at this level either. I'm just going to use a one word, call it profile. And then I'm going to left click off of it. Okay. And there we go. So that's our first feature, if you would. The next feature that I'm going to create, I go back underneath, I'm going to create one of these feet on this side. Okay. Now I'm going to do the half circle. It's going to be from center half of 1.6 to one side. And then I'm going to extrude one side. I'm going to then put my hole in. And then after I have the foot and the hole in place, I'm going to mirror that, as features on the opposite side to finish my part. So I'm going to go back to Creo over here. I'm going to rotate this around. Remember my middle mouse button, I can use that to rotate the model around. I'm going to do another extrude and I'm going to pick this surface on the bottom here. Okay. And now I'm going to sketch on this. I'm going to start on the left side. You could do left or right side. I'm going to do the left side. I'm going to do a circle and I want it to be in line with my origin. I don't know if it's not going to grab it. That's okay. I can make that happen in just a little bit. And I'm going to make a circle here. And then I'm going to middle mouse button to end it. Double click here on that diameter. It's a radius of 0.15. So it's a diameter of 0.3. And I'm going to left click it and change it to the radius right away. Now, I need this to be in line with my origin. So I am going to add a constraint. Okay. So the constraint I'm going to add is going to be the horizontal constraint. I want it to be in line horizontally with the origin and the center of my circle that I created. So I'm going to click on horizontal. I'm going to click the center of my circle and the origin. And now it's going to align those. And you should get this little symbol here with that little dotted horizontal line. Okay. Now, the other thing I need to do is I need to identify what my distance is from the origin out to the center of that circle. And that needs to be half of 1.6. So I'm going to double click on this dimension and it's going to be 0.8. If you don't have that dimension, then just make that dimension from that origin to the center. Okay. And now that is 0.8. Now, if we look at the configuration here, it's not just a circle going up. There's two lines that are going to go to the center. Now, because this is arched, if I go to the end right here, it's not going to blend in as it goes up. Do you guys see that? Because it gets wider. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create my lines to the inside portion and then extrude that because it'll merge the material anyway. So it's not going to double up on material. It's just going to merge those together. So I'm going to go back over here. And here is the inside of that foot. I want to project that. Now, if you remember back from the fundamentals of 3D modeling in the first Creo class, we can project elements from previous sketches and use them in our current sketch. So you'll notice that here is the side of that, if you would, the bottom of that profile. I'm going to take a horizontal line. I'm going to go all the way to that and then extrude that up. But instead of drawing another line, I'm just going to simply project this line right here. When I hover over it, it's going to highlight. I'm going to left click it. And then I have to hit the green check mark here. Okay. And now that line is in my current sketch. Does that make sense to everybody? You can use, if you would, stuff that you've already created in previous features from those previous sketches. And then but you have to project them into your current sketch. So now I have that horizontal line there. I'm now going to create my lines from the quadrant. So I've got to start at the quadrant here. So it's gonna like snap to that quadrant. I'm going to left click and then, oopsie, I don't think I got the quadrant. Let me try it again. Line, left click, and then I'm going to go all the way over here. Make sure you get the quadrant, and then it makes a horizontal line, and I'm going to left click when it gets there. And then I'm going to hit the middle mouse button. I'm still in my line command. I'm going to go at the bottom, and then I'm going to go perpendicular over here, and then middle mouse button twice to end that command. You guys got that? Now I need to get rid of what I don't want. So I'm going to go back up here to delete segments in the editing. And I'm just going to go left click and drag over the portion I don't want, over the portion I don't want, and then over the portion I don't want, those two. So I'm going to be left with the rounded part here, my horizontal line, my vertical line, and horizontal line. Okay. Now, make sure you'll notice that it's still great in there. Either hit the escape key to get off of that command, and you should see this kind of fill in with that pinkish color. Now, you'll notice that that is the sketch that I drew at the bottom here, and I want to extrude this up 0.25 inches. Now, before I do, I'm going to hit my feature requirements. Make sure I have all green arrows. If you don't, if there's any of those yield signs or red check marks, that means that you probably don't have your geometry coming together, or you don't have it fully defined. This is your insurance that you're ready to do the extrude. Okay. So I'm going to hit close because I'm good. I'm going to hit OK. And now here again, I went in underneath the extrude command. It's going to assume a direction, and it's adding it to the wrong side. So to toggle the side where you want it to go is to the right of your depth dimension. This is the toggle to the side of your sketch plane that you want to, oopsie, dang it. If you do that, I have to edit that feature. I was trying to do a rotate here. In this case, it's doing my depth of 0.375. The dimension on the drawing is 0.25. So make sure you change that. And as long as that looks okay, which it does, I can hit OK. And again, it merged it together. If I would have started with this at the flat here, it would have gone straight up and it wouldn't have connected here. That's why we went to the inside portion of that profile. So I'm gonna rename this to ear. You can call it whatever you want, ear or foot. Foot might be a better name if you want to do that, but just something other than extrude to. All right, now is a good time to probably do a quick save. So I'm going to do a file, save, and it should go to your working directory. You should see your file name as the part number, and you're going to just hit OK. All right, now before I do my mirror of my ear, I'm going to put my hole in here, okay? So I am going to do extrude. I am going to select the bottom of my foot here. And I am going to put my circle in here. Now, you might say, why didn't I do a hole at the feature level? That's a personal preference. The whole wizard in here is okay. So if you want to use it, you can at the feature level, but I find, especially if it's like one simple hole, I think it's easier to put in at the sketch level or like as a feature, as an extrude, than to do it otherwise. So you can play with both. So now I'm going to do my circle. I'm going to activate the outside of my ear so that I can then select that center so they share the same center. Okay. And I'm going to middle mouse button to end it. I'm going to double click on it and I think it's 0.125. All right. Now, if you activate it and got to the same center as the ear on the outside, you're going to notice this constraint of being a concentric vertices. And that's going to mean that those two centers share the same point. Okay. And when I go to my feature requirements, I'm going to have green check marks. If you don't, you probably didn't grab the center. And all you have to do is do a constraint, and there's more down here, or there's the coincident that you can do, and then it'll notice that it's because it's two axes, it'll be constrained concentric. You'll have to add that to it. Okay. Just so that you know, in case you're wondering, but I'm good. So I'm going to hit okay. Now, this time when I do the extrude, it's going to still assume that I want to add material, but I need to change this to remove material. And now I don't see anything because the arrow is going in that direction. So I want to change the arrow. And now you're going to notice that it's taking material out, but I don't want it to go to a depth. I'm going to arrow down here from blind to up to next or through all, one of those two. So I'm going to do up to next. And then it's going to find where the next surface is, and it's going to go all the way there as a through hole. Okay. You just want to kind of check that. If it looks good, you can say, okay. And now I'm going to rename, oopsie. Cancel, select it. I'm going to right click and rename this to be ear underscore hole. Don't put a space because it won't let you save it with the space. Now that I have these two in here, I can go over my right plane and I can mirror it to the other side. So to mirror, you'll notice that at the feature level here or at the model level, mirror is grayed out. It's not available until I select the features I want to mirror. So I'm going to select the ear. And if I go ahead and I select the ear hole, it unselects ear. So in order to, or I'm going to ask you guys, do you remember how to select more than one thing, what you have to do? Hold the control key, not the shift, to hold the control key. So you're going to hold the control key and grab the other feature there. And once you do, we're going to go up to mirror. And now mirror is available. And now all it's asking is, what is the mirror plane? And we are simply going to select that right plane, which is right in the middle. And now you're going to notice that it mirrors the ear and the ear hole to the other side. And we can say, okay. And now our part is complete. And we can just do one more file, save. Now, as you know, I kept saving underneath that same name, file save. At this point, what Creo has done in the background, if I go to my folder and I go to, let's see, my name, it was 20010. So I isn't doing that. Hold on. So I'm going to do file, save, save. Try one more time. Well, I don't know why it's not doing it, but in my working directory, oh, I know why. It's not going to show it here, but in my working directory, there are multiple versions of this file. We don't see it in the actual file manager, but they do save them in there. So what we need to do before we exit out of here, we need to go into File, Manage Files. So you're going to want to save one last time. Like, okay, it's official. My model is all good. Then you're going to go into Manage File. And what you want to do is you want to delete the old versions. Otherwise, it's going to populate out there and you're going to save them and they're going to take up space. So we want to delete the old versions. And it says, do you want to delete the old versions? You're going to say yes.
That's the trail.
It should be, yeah. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go into File, Close, not Exit. You're going to go to Close. We're just going to close the model and it's not here. And then I'm reminding you, we got to do one more thing. Do you remember what it is? Yes, Erase Not Display. So we're going to go into File, Manage Session. Okay, not Manage File. You're going to go to Manage Session and you're going to Erase Not Displayed. We're going to click that. And now this is going to be that model in the background. Okay. So now if we go one more time to erase not displayed, there shouldn't be anything that comes up, okay? So it's a process. So you guys kind of remember all that, those little Creo nuances, all right? So what I want you to do then is in that PDF, you are going to continue on. That was our first part. If you followed along or if you need to go back and do it, no problem. But if we go underneath here, now what you're going to do is you're going to turn the page, and our next part that we're going to create would be the connecting rod and then the crankshaft. And like I said, there's 5 total here that you're going to put together. Now, as we look at this tutorial, if you get these created and you want to keep going before the next time we meet, then we're going to start putting our assembly together. And starting on page 1312, it starts the process of putting the assembly together and using mates that are going to correspond to the animation that we're going to be doing. So, so there are different ways that we can put it together, but we want to follow this. So if you get to the point where you want to start putting it together, great. Or if you wanted to wait for us to do that demonstration, we will do that. So our process is going to be models. Then we're going to put the assembly together to confirm that everything looks okay. And that's a good idea. Then we're going to go back and we're going to do the detailed drawings of each one of the models of the individual parts, the drawing, the assembly drawing for the entire model together, and then the animation. Okay. So instead of going all through those process, I'm going to let you guys work on parts the rest of today. So, so that's what I was planning on going over. And the rest of the time is for you to work, and I'm happy to answer individual questions that you might have. So I am going to stop our recording.